Hey there everybody, it's Woodrow, and it is time once again for a walk through the previews catalogs. It is for the month of August. Most of these books will be hitting your mailbox or your LCS pull box in October. And I'd characterize it as a average month. There's some things I'm excited about, but I wouldn't say that it's one of those months where I had to really work hard to pare back what I was going to tell you guys about. So stay tuned, sit tight, and I will be back momentarily. Okay, we're going to switch it up this month. Normally I start with the Marvel catalog, and then I go to the DC catalog, and then I finish up with the main catalog, but screw it. I'm going to start with the main catalog this month just because I feel like being different. And jumping into the fray, we're going to Image Comics for my first recommendation on pages 54, 55, 56, and 57. We have Chrononauts Future Shock, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 of 4. Yes, that's right. Image is releasing all 4, or I should say is soliciting all 4 issues of Mark Millar's new miniseries, which is a sequel to his Chrononauts miniseries, which he did with Sean Murphy. In this case, he is partnering with Mr. Eric Canetti, and that's why I want to bring this to you, because I am a massive fan of Eric's art. I think he is one of the best illustrators in the business, and I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it. But here's the thing. Eric makes a very good living as a art director, and does very little published comics work these days. It basically is one of those things where he only does work occasionally when he's inspired and he wants to work with a friend. So the fact that we're going to get 4 issues of his sequentials is just incredible. We don't get that but once every few years. And I was a fan of the first Chrononauts series. It's basically buddy cops in a future where they can travel through time, and they get in all kinds of hijinks. So, and the other cool thing is that Eric would be the first to tell you that he has a tendency to be slow when it comes to drawing sequentials. So this book was a long time in the making, and that's why they're soliciting it this way. All 4 issues are in the can, so you won't have to worry about delays, and we will get all of this. And if you've been dying to see more of Eric's art since Run, Love, Kill, here is your chance. I am super stoked. I'm sure you are too. Right on the next page, page 58, staying in Image Comics, we have Copra number 1, written and drawn by Michel Fiffe, who is a longtime friend of the show. We have talked about Copra many times over the years. It has been, up until this point, a self-published book where it's basically Michel's love letter to superhero comics. It's a mix of the Suicide Squad and the Avengers and the like. It's mostly, I'd say it's most analogous to the Suicide Squad. But in any event, love the Copra world, and you know that they recently he recently brought the Copra indie books over to Image to re-release in collected form. And that, I think, was a direct precursor to this, which is he is going to start publishing, for the first time ever, a monthly ongoing book featuring the characters. And I can't recommend this enough. It is rare that an indie superhero book catches on, but if there's ever one that deserves to catch on and deserves your attention, it is Copra. So peep it. And a little birdie told me we may be hearing a little bit more about this from the source. Stay tuned. Some months are Image months, and this is an Image month. So just a few pages later, on page 61, still in the Image Comics section, is Ascender Volume 1, The Haunted Galaxy trade paperback. This collects issues 1 through 5 of Ascender, which is the sequel to the fantastic Descender series. This, much like Descender, is written by Jeff Lemire, and it is drawn by Dustin Nguyen. And the cool thing about this is same universe, totally different concept, which is to say Descender was all about science and artificial intelligence and robotics. And I'm not going to tell you how Descender ended in case you haven't read it yet, but this is that universe 10 years later where science has been overtaken by magic. And so it goes from sci-fi epic to fantasy epic, yet it's the same universe. It's masterful stuff. And Nguyen's painterly watercolors are unique, something you don't see really in any other comic on the stands these days. And you all know how I feel about Jeff. I think he's one of the best writers in comics history at this point. And he's just on an amazing roll these last few years, putting out an incredibly prolific output of both Marvel and DC work and his own fantastic series, most of which come through Image. So check this out. If you haven't been picking up the issues as I have, here's your chance to get on board with the trade paperback. Oh, hell yes. Page 64, Image Comics section, Little Bird, The Fight for Elder's Hope, hardcover. How about that? We are getting a very rare thing, which is that Image is not known for putting out hardcover collections, at least as the first collection of a series. So I'm totally over the moon to see that they're doing that with Little Bird, and based on the magnificence that is Ian Bertram's art, this is certainly worthy of that kind of hardcover treatment. So you've heard us talk about this on the show. You know that all three of us are big fans of this. It's definitely one of those books where the concentric circles of our interests overlap. And this book, just on the art alone, deserves to be on your coffee table, but the story is pretty kick-ass too. I had no idea that we were going to get more Red Hook, but I am super excited for it. Maybe about a year ago now, give or take. Don't hold me to that. I talked lovingly on the show about Red Hook Volume 1. It's Dean Haspiel's love letter to both classic Silver Age superheroes and Silver Age street level superheroes and Brooklyn, where he lives. This is a Brooklyn-centric world, and it's great. I loved the first series, and this is a no-brainer for me because I just thought it was so charming, and his art is just fantastic. It's crispy clean, and it's a story where he lets his artwork tell the story. Not a ton of alliteration, not overdone, and I'll be talking about this on the show for sure. All right, on page 100, we finally left the Image Comics section, and we jumped into the Dark Horse section. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I damn sure know that Dap is going to tell you in great detail why you need to buy this. And we were just very honored to have Mr. Matt Wagner on the show to talk about the end of Mage, and here he is giving us more of his other seminal work, which is Grendel. Here we have Grendel, Devil's Odyssey, #1 of 8, written and drawn by Matt, with colors, as has been the case of late with his work, by his son Brennan, with a variant cover by Fabio Moon, which is dope. So, yeah, listen, I'm sure Dap can tell you why you need to own this far more eloquently than I can, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in because this will be the first Grendel comic that I ever bought off the stands. So maybe it'll be yours too. How about this? An IDW section on page 137 of the main previews catalog. We have Star Wars Adventures #27. And look, I haven't been reading Star Wars Adventures, which is a kid-friendly, all-ages version of Star Wars. But you may be wondering, why then am I calling your attention to issue #27? Very simply, take a look at who the artist is. That's right. Our good friend, Mr. Tony Fleece, is drawing Star Wars, which is an event unto itself. And this is the first of a 3-part story centered around Kashyyyk, which you Star Wars old heads know is the home world for Wookiees, Chewbacca and his peoples. So I highly recommend that you buy Star Wars Adventures #27, 28, and 29, because Tony, I'm sure, is going to crush it. Yeah, this one is, I don't know, I'm conflicted. Look, you all know I'm not the biggest fan of IDW's licensed comics. if I'm being blunt, I think there's been more bad than good over the years that we've done the show. However, they have been doing a little bit of a tilt lately where they're giving some of these very strange, purely commercial licensed titles to incredibly talented indie creators. Most notably, what we got with the Clue series with Dash Shaw. So it's with that open mind that I'm telling you to check out Cobra Kai. The Karate Kid Saga continues, number 1 of 4. Look, I haven't watched this new Karate Kid Cobra Kai show that is available somewhere. I don't even know what streaming service it's on. I just know that a lot of people have watched it. I think it's a YouTube series, but in any event, that's not the draw for me either. What the draw for me is here is, as I was flipping through the catalog, I just happened to notice that the artist here is none other than Kagan MacLeod. And Kagan wrote and drew a graphic novel called Infinite Kung Fu, which is right up there with Aphrodisiac as probably the thing I've loved more than anything else in the time we've done our podcast. I just love Infinite Kung Fu. And I've kept in touch with Kagan over the years, waiting for his next thing. And he's generally not been doing comics. So any chance I get for Kagan to tell me or to draw some badass comics, regardless of the subject, I'm going to at least give it a try. So can I tell you for sure I'm going to buy all 4 of these issues and I'm going to love it? No, I can't. But I can tell you for sure that I'm buying this first issue and that no matter what I think of the story, it's going to look amazing. So who knows? Maybe this is the hidden gem of the year. If you are a fan of Instagram and following comic artists on Instagram, there's a good chance that you follow Layla Lays, who is, to this point, I think more well known to many, myself included, for her amazing and very frequent drawings on Instagram, many of which, frankly, are beautiful women and sometimes men, mostly women, in very alluring, sexualized depictions, often in some way tied to blood or horror or something like that. And so it was with great excitement that I saw that she is drawing a original graphic novel in hardcover form, written by Marguerite Bennett, who's fantastic, called Horde from Aftershock. It is a horror story about a woman who is a hoarder, and her daughter tries to extricate her mom from that situation, and the house fights back. So sounds like a unique take on a haunted house, very in the moment with the obsession we have with reality TV and people's maladies like hoarders. And I'm just really intrigued to see Layla bust out 72 pages of sequentials. So if you're a horror fan, give this a try. Jumping ahead to the back of the catalog, page 327, Fantagraphics section. On the top right here, we've got The House by Paco Roca, which is an English adaptation of his La Casa, which they're also soliciting if you prefer the original version. But in any event, this is a slice of life about 3 adult siblings who go back to their vacation home after their father passes to gather up the belongings and take, I'm sure, some very pertinent trips down memory lane. At this point, I pretty much trust Fantagraphics. They're excellent curators. So this is the kind of book I've been loving lately, as you all know. And so I figured this plus Fantagraphics makes it a worthwhile thing to try, even though I'm not familiar with Mr. Roca to this point. It's that time again. On page 357 in the Lion Forge section, we have the 5th wonderful, beautimous, fantastical volume of Infinity 8. This is Volume 5, Apocalypse Day, part of their Magnetic Collection, written as always by Louis Trondheim, this time art by Lorenzo De Felici. This is the 5th volume of the ongoing adventures of the Infinity 8 cruise ship, whose captain can essentially reset time over an 8-hour period 8 times. And so I would imagine, you guessed it, we'll eventually have 8 volumes of this. But each volume has a different genre and an entirely different art style, and it follows a different heroine who is generally someone associated with the ship. So they're 4 for 4 to this point, and I'm actually planning on talking about the 4th volume in the next week or two as time permits on the show. So yeah, you can't go wrong. And you can jump in on this here if you haven't been reading the other volumes. Each one is its own thing. So maybe you pick this one up and try it, and if you really love it, you can go back and find the other 4. All right, that was an abrupt wrap up to the main catalog, but I went through about another 80 to 100 pages and didn't see anything else worth calling your attention to. So we're jumping right into the Marvel previews, and I'm just going to go through these quickly because likely you already know about them. You're either going to buy them because you are as into it as I am, or you're not interested no matter what I say. But we're getting a glimpse into what happens with the X universe under Hickman's watch after Powers of 10 and House of X. And it starts here with X-Men #1, written by Hickman with art by Lionel Francis Yu. And there's a look at the initial team. Yeah, you got Corsair, which is interesting. You got Vulcan. Yeah, Havoc's back. It's obviously the Summers family, and then some. You got Cable, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Summers. Then you got Jean, who's the wife, and then you got their quasi daughter. Really, the only one that doesn't fit is Wolverine, but you gotta stick Logan in a book to sell it. Then next page we've got Excalibur #1. Love Excalibur, the title. We just did a book of the month on it. This is written by Tini Howard with art by Marcus To. Very different look, or I should say very different take on Excalibur. We shall see. Not 100% sold that this is going to be a hit, but again, I'm going to try each of these first issues and see what sticks. Then comes Marauders #1. Interesting to choose the title Marauders because that is most closely associated with a band of ne'er-do-wells during the Mutant Massacre. But this is a different take. This is written by Jerry Duggan with art by Matteo Lolli. And it's basically a group of pirates. X-Men as pirates. Led by a young-looking Kitty Pryde. You got Emma, you got Bishop, Iceman, Pyro, Storm. Lockheed's up in there. So, yeah, it could be cool. We'll see. No, it sounds pretty wonky. Then you got some interior art. Then we've got, you've got House of X and Powers of X that are coming. So check those out. I'm all about the mutant tip now that Hickman's running the show. Hope you guys are too. Okay, after jumping past about 472 different Spider-Man related books, it's getting out of hand. Very stoked to bring your attention Fantastic Four Grand Design #1 of 2. We just had Mr. Scholey on the show to talk about this. This is a follow-up to X-Men Grand Design by Ed Piskor. Tom, if you know him, has been a Kirby acolyte from Jump. He loves the creators. He loves the Fantastic Four. He knows them well, and this is going to be fantastic. So pick this issue up, pick the next one up, and then double dip on the beautiful Treasury Edition version I'm sure they will put out in one fell swoop. Excuse me? I'm baffled by this. Absolutely baffled in a great way. Didn't expect to see this. Savage Sword of Conan #10, written by Roy Thomas and art by Alan Davis. The solicit says 50 years after he first wrote Conan comics, Roy Thomas is back. So I don't know if this is like an inventory story. I don't know if they just are trying to do this because it's tied loosely into the 80th anniversary thing, but whatever. It's Alan Davis drawing Conan and OG Roy Thomas giving us a modern story. So hell yeah, you almost feel, listen, if you're a Marvel fan with any kind of duration, you're almost mandated by cosmic law to buy this book. So do it. Okay, last but certainly not least, the DC Previews catalog. And they're starting out with a bang. On the opening page, you have a detailed synopsis of the new Hill House imprint, which will be part of Black Label. And Hill House is the brainchild overseen by Joe Hill aka the creator of Lock and Key, aka Stephen King's son, aka one of the most well-respected horror storytellers of any media type alive today. This is going to be a series of horror books that are edited and curated by Joe, and they give us a glimpse here. We've got a book called Basketful of Heads, which is written by Joe with art by Leo Max. We've got The Dollhouse Family, written by Mike Carey with art by Peter Gross. The Lolo Woods, written by Carmen Maria Machado with art by Danny. Shout out to Danny. We've got Daphne Byrne, written by Laura Marks with art by Kelly Jones. And then we've got, which is a little weird, we've got Plunge, written by Joe Hill with art by TBD. So a little circumspect on that one. They could have probably waited to tell us about that until they actually have an artist in mind. But either way, I am definitely intrigued by this. As with anything like this, it could be good, could be not so good, could be mediocre. We shall see. But I'm definitely going to give these books their fair shake and see if they can keep me around. Okay, so you're telling me that I get the team behind Gideon Falls, who originally got together drawing and writing Green Arrow, are going to take a break from Gideon Falls to give me a Joker prestige format 3-issue limited series? Yeah, I'm on board. This is the Joker Killer Smile, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, and it's Jeff's take on the Joker. So hell yeah, man. Does Jeff ever steer us wrong? So I have no doubt that he's not doing this randomly. He had an idea in his head. He pitched it. They said go for it, and I'm sure it's going to be totally, totally dope. I'll tell you what, you greenlight a New Gods movie, and then you have Tom and Mitch's Mr. Miracle cleanup at the Eisners, and you start getting a little Kirby Fourth World love with the collected edition. So a bunch of years ago, they came out with the Jack Kirby Fourth World Omnibuy, which I own, but I can't say no to this. This is an absolute edition of Absolute Fourth World. It collects Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen 133 to 145, Forever People 1 through 6, New Gods 1 through 6, and Mr. Miracle 1 through 6. Gotta have it. Gots to have it. Speaking of gots to have it, a couple pages later on 127 of the DC previews, we get Hellblazer by Garth Ennis Omniboo. This collects Hellblazer 41 through 50, 52 through 83, 129 through 133, Hellblazer Special number 1, and Heartland number 1. Basically a carefully selected collection of Garth Ennis's run on Hellblazer. And I haven't read much Hellblazer, but it's always been something I think I would enjoy. So you give me an omniboo full of the goodness, and I gotta say yes to it. Have to. All right, there you have it. Another month is in the books. As always, thank you for listening and watching me meander. Hopefully I called your attention to a few morsels that you otherwise might have missed. And as always, keep in mind that this is just a smattering, if you will, of what I will eventually order for the month. I try to focus in these videos purely on things that are obvious jumping on points, so your first issues, your starts of events, your collected editions, that type of thing. But for everything else that I'm enjoying but don't have a clear jumping on point this month, you can see all that when I post my complete DCB service order, as I do every month on Patreon. So patrons, definitely check that out. And as always, many of you don't take me up on this, but please let us know what you're excited about. And especially if there's anything that David, Vince, and I don't mention in our videos that you think is worth people's attention, shout it out. Good chance I'll order it if y'all can sell me on it. So peace and love. I will talk to you soon.